Obanai's What If? In Demon Slayer, there are many scenes showing the hard battles between human-eating demons and swordsmen called Demon Slayers. Even among the demons, the strongest stayed at the top for 130 years, and not even the pillars stood a chance. That was until Sound Pillar Tengen Uzui, Tanjiro Kamado, Zenitsu Agatsuma, and Inosuke Hashibira went undercover in the entertainment district and defeated the upper rank 6. Serpent Pillar Obanai Iguro made his way to back up the fight, but by the time he got there, the battle was over. If Obanai got to the battle on time, what would have happened? Would they have swept the scenes? Would they still have a hard time? Today, we'll be figuring out what would have happened if Obanai joined the fight against Daki and Gyutaro. What would happen if Sound Pillar Tengen and Serpent Pillar Obanai did a co-op? Stay tuned to find out. Who is Obanai Iguro? At a glance, Obanai Iguro is a strange figure. His first appearance was during the Pillar meeting in Volume 6, Chapter 45. Lying down on a tree branch, he mercilessly let out strings of petty comments onto Tanjiro, giving him a poor first impression. Obanai's strongest characteristics are his bandages wrapped around his mouth and his natural heterochromia. It seems his left eye is nearly blind, but to make up for it, he's constantly with Kaburamaru, the white snake. Kaburamaru is an excellent snake. During the final battle, Kaburamaru and Obanai fought together with amazing cooperation. Obanai uses snake breathing, and as one of the top 9 members of the Demon Slayer Corps, he holds the title Serpent Pillar. Snake breathing is based on water breathing. Obanai's fighting style consists of slipping through small spaces and using snake-like curved attacks. His shoulders, elbows, and wrists are trained to be flexible for his unique style. So, Tanjiro was shocked that even a normal wood sword looks like it's bending. If a normal wood sword looks like it bends, then Obanai's curved swords must look even bendier. On top of his snake-like wings, if he uses the snake breathing forms, he has to do some massive damage. As a matter of fact, during the final battle, Obanai succeeded in cutting Muzan Kibutsuji's neck. Unfortunately, Muzan's regeneration was so strong that his neck healed immediately, so the attack barely did anything. Even so, it's enough to show how strong Obanai is. In the second official fanbook, Flame Pillar Kyojuro Rengoku said about Obanai, his senses are sharp. If it's just his shoulders, elbows, and the joints in his wrist, then they're even more flexible than Kanroji's. He isn't as extreme as Inosuke and his ability to dislocate any joint at will, but Obanai seems to be using his sharp senses and flexible joints to their fullest in battle. Obanai's snake-like attacks can land on the opponent with excellent accuracy, even from angles that seem physically impossible. On top of that, from how he says, "I should praise you" or something, to Tengen, we can assume that Obanai is actually stronger than Tengen. Tanjiro and Company versus Daki and Gyutaro. In the series, Obanai didn't make it to the fight in time, but Sound Pillar Tengen Uzui, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke managed to defeat Daki and Gyutaro during the Entertainment District arc. However, that wasn't an easy feat. Let's take a quick look at what the fight was like before Obanai showed up. The first match was Tanjiro versus Daki. Daki had been infiltrating the Yoshiwara Entertainment District as an oiran, feasting on women she deemed beautiful. Being able to attack with her sash with immense precision, she was able to give Tanjiro a near-fatal blow, but her head was cut off as soon as Tengen came to the rescue. As she threw a tantrum, her brother Gyutaro came out of her back. From how Daki didn't crumble after her head was cut off, Tengen figured out that they needed to cut off both Daki and Gyutaro's necks at the same time to defeat them. Tanjiro's group split up into 2. Zenitsu and Inosuke took on Daki, while Tengen and Tanjiro went up against Gyutaro. From how Muzan commented, Daki was in the way, and if Gyutaro was fighting from the beginning, he wouldn't have lost. It's made pretty clear that Gyutaro was far stronger than Daki. Even for Tengen, who cut off Daki's hand with little to no effort, Gyutaro was not one to underestimate. Gyutaro's blood demon techniques are his 2 sickles and his attacks that let him shoot thin, sharp blades through the air. What makes matters worse is that he can maneuver the blades mid-air. On top of that, Gyutaro's blood demon techniques all have powerful toxins, and even Tengen, who has an immunity to poison, has a hard time fighting against Gyutaro's poison. Daki and Gyutaro both have a lot of wide-range attacks, so not only did Tanjiro and his friends have a rough time, Tengen ended up losing his left arm and Ai. Tanjiro and his friends managed to work together and they succeeded in simultaneously cutting off Daki and Gyutaro's head. The poison from Gyutaro's blood demon technique was also successfully burned out of Tengen's system thanks to Nezuko's blood demon technique. No one was lost in the fight. Even so, Tengen's left arm and eye was forever lost, and he was forced to back down from his position as a pillar. The fight combination with Obanai. Now taking into consideration Obanai's power set and Daki and Gyutaro's fights, let's see what would have happened if Obanai joined the battle. Obanai wasn't in the entertainment district to begin with, so even if he came as soon as he got the order, he still wouldn't arrive till after Gyutaro's appearance. If Obanai showed up on time, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke would go against Daki. Gyutaro's opponents would then be Tengen and Obanai. Of course, against Daki, Obanai can handle her on his own with ease. Unfortunately, that'll mean Tanjiro and the other low-level swordsmen would back up Tengen, making it harder to work together. On the flip side, even if Obanai was stronger than Tengen, Obanai against Gyutaro alone and everyone else against Daki would be incredibly unbalanced. If the two pillars worked together, it would be much easier for them to cooperate. Tengen's sound breathing makes a lot of explosive noise, and Obanai's snake breathing can maneuver around those attacks, so their compatibility is pretty good. Also, taking into consideration the Kamaboko squad, they fought a handful of battles together, so it's much easier for them to work together, and in the series, they actually succeeded in cutting off Daki's head. Taking everything into consideration, the best case scenario is to split up between the two pillars and Tanjiro's group. The strategy with Obanai. When Tanjiro and Tengen went up against Gyutaro, Tengen did most of the direct damage, while Tanjiro mostly backed him up by dealing with the sashes and sickles. If the team was Obanai and Tengen, they wouldn't have to split into the main and support roles. Those two could deal with and do the attacks. Gyutaro had the tendency to focus on the pillar while fighting, but trying to watch out for two pillars at once would be a bit difficult. On the other hand, because the focus would be divided between him and Obanai, it would be easier for Tengen to fight. This could even affect Daki's fight, as it won't be easy to pay attention to Daki's fight and send her instructions while fighting two pillars. That means it'll also be easier for Tanjiro's team to fight. Gyutaro has a lot of wide-range attacks, but Obanai has sharp senses. It shouldn't be too hard for him to deal with them. Snake breathing lets Obanai attack from virtually any angle, so of course it'll be effective against Gyutaro. Obanai has the power to get his sword in Muzan's neck, so with Tengen's cooperation, cutting off Gyutaro's head is definitely possible. If Tengen can complete his score or strategy early on in the fight, they can wrap things up much faster. However, the win condition is cutting off both Daki and Gyutaro's heads off simultaneously, so that'll also depend on how Tanjiro's team is doing. It'll be great if they can cut both of them at the same time, but that might be a bit hard to do. If they had to do it in a certain order, cutting off Daki's head first is the way to go. That way, someone on Tanjiro's team could run around with their head while Obanai cuts Gyutaro's neck. This plan was even attempted in the series, but it ended miserably when Gyutaro noticed an attack with his blood sickles. However, if the two pillars can push Gyutaro hard enough, he won't be able to pay attention to what's happening to Daki, and Tanjiro's team can keep running. If Tengen and Obanai successfully cut off Gyutaro's head, they win. Things to consider if Obanai joins the fight. When we look at what we pulled up, Obanai's team-up will lead to less stress on our allies, which in turn will make the fight much easier to win. However, we can't forget Gyutaro's poisonous sickles. Sure, if Obanai can dodge all of Gyutaro's attacks without getting hit by any of them, he could avoid getting poisoned. However, even if he's stronger than Tengen, dodging every single attack from upper rank 6 is impossible. Gyutaro's attacks can be maneuvered mid-air, so even if Obanai dodged it the first time, it'll chase him down. It would have been fine if they only had to deal with the sickles, but he can't avoid all of Gyutaro's long-range attacks. So, what will happen if Obanai does end up getting poisoned? Tengen has immunity to toxins, and even he had a hard time dealing with Gyutaro's poison. If Nezuko didn't burn the poison out of his system, he probably would have died. It's hard to believe that Obanai has the same immunity as former ninja Tengen. On top of that, Obanai only stands at 162 centimeters, so compared to Tengen's 192 centimeters, he's shorter by a whole 36 centimeters centimeters. When taking into consideration how poison affects people by size, there's no doubt that Obanai would be affected much worse than Tengen. We can't assume that Tengen was fine because Nezuko was there. If anything, Obanai has to avoid getting poisoned at all costs. If Obanai gets warned by Tengen about the poison as soon as he arrives, he could be a bit more careful, but then Obanai wouldn't be able to fight with his full strength. Another thing that bothered us is when the pillars did an arm wrestling contest, Obanai came second to last, which meant he was probably weaker than Tanjiro. On the actual field, raw strength might not be an issue thanks to the breathing style, but it won't be easy to cut Gyutaro's tough neck. Even Tanjiro couldn't do it until he went into his awakened state and activated his Demon Slayer mark. It would have been fine if Obanai activated his mark at this point, but the mark didn't appear during the Entertainment District arc. If they had to fight with raw strength alone, there's a high probability that Obanai couldn't cut Gyutaro's neck. A good strategy might be for Obanai to not aim directly for Gyutaro's neck, but for him to support Tengen from behind and attack when necessary. In short, if Obanai fought the battle, Upper rank 6 Daki and Gyutaro need to have both their heads cut off simultaneously to defeat them, and Gyutaro has attacks with deadly poison, making them incredibly formidable foes. Even with these hard conditions to clear, if Obanai joined the fight, their odds of winning would have gone up by a large margin. Obanai might be lacking in size and strength, but Tengen can make up for it, so it shouldn't be a very big issue. From Gyutaro's perspective, Snake Breathing's precise attacks in between Sound Breathing's explosions would be a major threat. They would have won without Tengen losing his arm or eye. If Obanai made it to the battle on time, Tengen wouldn't need to back down from his position as a pillar, meaning they would have had more fighters in the final battle. However, that would also mean we wouldn't see Tanjiro's growth in his awakened state after his near-death experience. It was because Tanjiro activated his mark that the other pillars were able to do the same, as if they were all linked. If Tanjiro didn't activate his mark, the battle at the Swordsmith village would have been even harder than it already was. Worst case scenario, if the marks were never activated, Mist Pillars Muichiro Tokito and Love Pillar Mitsuri Kanroji would have received injuries bad enough to force them into retirement, or even worse, death. If that happens, it'll make the final battle even worse. Taking these into consideration, the actual timeline in the canon series was probably the best possible outcome they would have had. That's all for what would happen if Obanai made it into Daki and Gyutaro's battle. The upper-ranked demons are said to be as strong as 3 pillars combined. One pillar and Tanjiro's group of 3 managed to defeat one. This is proof that Tanjiro and his friends are definitely getting stronger. If Obanai joined the fight, it would have been so much easier. What did you think of the Entertainment District arc's ending? Comment your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching. We have more amazing videos coming, so subscribe to stay up to date. We'll see you next time.